want to fully delve into what happened with Antonio Brown on Sunday. Now, it was a lot more cut and dry in black and white before the end of the game, because I mean, I'm sure all of you guys have seen the video now. I don't know how many of you have seen the video of Mike Evans trying to stop Antonio Brown from leaving. Of course, that's up on our YouTube. You can go check that one out. Fourth Long Radio on YouTube, or link at thefourthandlong.com. But Mike Evans trying to stop him from leaving. Apparently, and then just let's break it down in real time of what we saw. We saw Antonio Brown having a little bit of freak out on the sideline. He takes off his helmet, takes off his shoulder pads, throws it on the bench, takes off his shirt, throws in, like, I think maybe gloves too, throws into the crowd. Then while the game's going on, he's jogging to the locker room, do his little hop skippy thing, peace sign up to the crowd, and then he disappears into the tunnel. And we never see him again until a picture pops up on social media where he has a little suitcase. He's dressed in his post-game attire, apparently waiting for an Uber to the airport because the Buccaneers weren't. They didn't fly him back. Obviously, he was reports are that he was asking the state troopers for a ride to the airport. Interesting stuff. All right. At least he's trying to be resourceful. I guess we have to put that into effect. But then it comes out that, I think it was according to Bruce Arians, that the whole dispute, that Arians told him essentially to leave because Antonio, he tried a few times to tell Antonio Brown, get into the game, go do what we're paying you to do, and he just outright refused to do so, claiming that he was too injured to play. And that is where this whole situation really gets muddy, because as of recording this, at least, he is still, the Bucs said that they were done with him, but technically he's still under contract by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Bucs still own his rights. They haven't dropped him yet. And I think that's because Roger Goodell might have phoned them up and say, hey, unless we want to have a total PR nightmare possibly, let's take a chill pill on the whole cutting Antonio Brown, because if these statements are true that he was actually injured and the Bucs are trying to force him to play, then that's a completely different story. That's a completely different scenario, and that's a scenario that can really get the Tampa Bay Bucs as an organization, and possibly Bruce Arians as a head coach, in trouble. Because we all know the injuries and player safety has taken a whole new meaning and importance to the game over the past 4 or 5 years. It's one of the hottest and most fought over issues when it comes the players union, when it comes from the media, when it comes from the players themselves. So obviously you don't want to force a guy to play if he's claiming to be too injured. But if he's wasn't showing that all at practice, if he wasn't showing that pregame, if there weren't really any reports going into the game that Antonio Brown was too injured to play, then that puts the blame on Antonio Brown, maybe just trying to come up with an excuse to not go in. So you can see there's going to be, there probably as we speak right now, there is an investigation going on to see what the actual truth is. But the only problem right now is that I am having a really hard time actually believing Antonio Brown, because this dude is just gone batshit insane over the last couple of years. Just because was that the whole cryopod incident with the burned feet, right, where he couldn't practice because of that. The helmet issue actually as well. That was another one. There was probably a money issue. There was when he was on the Patriots, and was it this off? Well, then there was the fake vax card where he got ousted by his chef. So of course we were talking about then, what did he do to piss off his chef? I'm still asking that question. What did he do to piss off his chef for him to snitch on them? Also, I'm kind of stupid. Why would you tell people that? First of all, why would you if you're trying to hide something, you probably want to keep it a secret. Just, an idea out there. And then also, he was the one throwing furniture out of his house in the off season. Apparently, almost hit somewhat a person with it. So with how crazy Antonio Brown has kind of devolved into the last 4 seasons, maybe 3, it's really hard to believe him with this kind of stuff just because he's not a trustworthy person. He's kind of crazy. All right? There's obviously not something is not right up there, you know? So I am going to put my trust in a good and well-renowned head coach like Bruce Arians than I am going to put my faith into Antonio Brown. That's just the way it is, but that's also Antonio Brown's fault for the way he's been acting the last 3 seasons or so. He put himself in this situation. Obviously, it's a crazy one. No one has ever seen this before, so I would love to hear you guys' reactions to this whole Antonio Brown situations, because I just want to know what you guys were thinking, because I saw this, I was like, ah. The only problem is, I was like, ah. You know what? That actually kind of seems like an Antonio Brown thing to do. So it was a surprising thing, but if you compare it to everything Antonio Brown's done, it really isn't that crazy of a situation if you're going to be honest here. But the real question is, can Antonio Brown still make the Hall of Fame even with all this crazy stuff going on, and it still has a chance just to get worse? And long answer short, it's yes. Antonio Brown can still make the Hall of Fame. All right, because at least in my opinion here, you have to take a look back. There's that 6-7 year stretch where Antonio Brown was clearly the best wide receiver in the league. He would just take the roofs off of defense. He could return punts. He could Sparta kick punters in the face. He could hug onto goalposts in the end zone. But this guy was a phenomenal route runner. He was always open. He had great hands. He had crazy breakaway speed. You could put him on deep routes. You could put him on middle routes. You could put him out for wide receiver screens. He could do it all at his position. He was really, really damn good for a good, meaningful chunk of time, like 7 years. That's a meaningful chunk of time. That's longer than most people are even in the league on average. All right. So, if you're going off of performance alone, and to me, I really think that, obviously, it's not a black and white rule for me. It is subject to change. But overall, I feel like whether you're going to vote someone into the Hall of Fame or not, it should be based on what they did on the field and based on their performance and their play, their skill level, their dominance, how good they were as a player. This off the field shenanigans, this poor teammate stuff, obviously it's going to factor in for most people. And it should factor in a little bit, of course. But overall, the main thing that voters should be taking into account is how good they were at playing football. And for how long they were, playing football at the highest level, the highest of high levels. Antonio Brown was that guy. He was that guy doing it for an extended period of time. He was the most feared receiver in the league for a meaningful period of time. And Antonio Brown is a Hall of Famer for that. And he's one of the all-time leaders in yards, in touchdowns, in receptions. He's up there with some of the best of them. The only reason why we wouldn't be thinking he's a Hall of Famer is because of how crazy and his antics have gone into over the past 3 seasons. That's the only thing holding people back. If none of this stuff ever happened, hell, even if he just dropped off as a player, he still would be making the Hall of Fame. One guy that is the best thing to compare this guy to would be Terrell Owens. I think it's a poor comparison because a lot of people call Terrell Owens a diva. Honestly, I didn't really mind his antics. I still don't, and I still don't really think it was that huge of a deal. And they obviously were nothing compared to what Antonio Brown has been doing. But it took him a while to make it into the Hall of Fame purely because people took into consideration what he did besides just his performance. First off, stupid. It should not have taken Terrell Owens that long to get into the Hall of Fame. He should have been in the Hall of Fame a while ago. So the voters messed up there. At least the NFL Hall of Fame voters are nearly as stubborn, as stupid, just to be honest, as MLB or the Baseball Hall of Fame voters. Because they're also the ones that don't like to unanimously vote someone in first ballot for whatever reason, I that's another thing why I find really annoying in baseball. The voters there suck. All right. But Antonio Brown, end of story. He's good enough. He definitely will not be a first ballot. That's for sure. But eventually, should he make it into the Hall of Fame? I don't know if he will, but he absolutely should. And I know I'm probably, I'm sure a lot of people don't agree with me in that statement. So, of course, please let me know whether you drop in YouTube comments, hit me up on Twitter, on Instagram, or best of all, leave a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts. Of course, you can also leave in the comments over on Rumble if that's more your taste and not YouTube. But Antonio Brown, end of the day, he's a Hall of Fame level player. So if you're a Hall of Fame level player, you probably should make it into the Hall of Fame. That's what I'm going to go with there. But, like I said, drop your comments, drop your thoughts, because I'm sure a lot of people out there, I'm sure a lot of you actually agree, but I'm sure there's a good chunk of you that also disagree. So please, I would love to hear your reasonings as to that. We can have a little conversation, of course. I love that stuff.